Hello everyone, I'm Ray. Welcome to the M2 story. On September 30th, 2023, during the early hours around 4:30 a.m. in Bellevue, Washington, at the intersection of Highway 108 and Highway 520, a serious car accident was reported on the occasion of the Mid-Autumn Festival. The police quickly rushed to the scene, and even though they were accustomed to various traffic accidents, what they saw left them gasping. There were long skid marks on the road, thick cement pillars on the roadside were broken, and following the marks, they found a white Porsche 911 overturned on the greenbelt in the distance, severely mangled, with the roof flattened and emitting white smoke, seemingly at risk of explosion and fire at any moment. In the end, rescue personnel found a female driver and a male passenger inside the car. The male passenger was pronounced dead on the spot, while the injured female driver was urgently taken to the hospital. The police stated that alcohol played a significant role in this tragic incident, and preliminary evidence suggested that impaired judgment on the part of the driver may have been the primary cause of this fatal accident. Both individuals involved in the accident were of Asian descent, in the prime of their youth, and had promising careers. The 27-year-old male victim was an engineer at TikTok, and the 26-year-old female driver was a programmer at Apple. Drunk driving and speeding resulted in one immediate fatality and an uncertain future for the other. Interestingly, this is not a complex and mysterious criminal case. The police have already determined that the young driver will pay a heavy price for her mistake. However, the story doesn't end there. Before the local court issued an arrest warrant, the injured female driver mysteriously disappeared. Subsequently, many Chinese individuals on social media claimed that the driver fled back to China out of fear of being sentenced for her actions. Furthermore, people claiming to be friends of the deceased revealed that after the accident, the female driver went to great lengths to conceal her boyfriend's death, lying to those who knew them and stating that her boyfriend was fine while secretly preparing for her escape by exchanging large amounts of currency in WeChat groups. What's even more shocking is that she refused to provide any information about the victim to the police, leading the authorities to confirm the victim's identity through other channels, causing a delay in the victim's parents learning about their son's death. These revelations have turned this car accident into a hot topic within the North American Chinese community, sparking significant attention and condemnation. Aside from the severe consequences of the accident and the unexpected escape of the female driver, she is said to be an internet celebrity, a young, attractive, and successful individual who enjoyed flaunting her privileged lifestyle on her social media accounts. The M2 Profile team has received messages and emails from fans, including details about the case. Based on the information currently available, we will summarize the cause of the accident and its development in this video. The content related to the accident in this episode is sourced from American media, court documents, and police footage, while the analysis and commentary are based solely on the information currently available. If any of our viewers have more accurate information, please feel free to leave comments to supplement it. According to the certification for the determination of probable cause, signed by the police on October 5th, let's first reconstruct the events of the accident. On Saturday, September 30th, around 3:44 a.m., a tragic incident occurred as the offending vehicle was heading towards Highway 520 in downtown Bellevue, Washington, USA. 26-year-old Ye Ting was driving a white 2020 Porsche 911 with a passenger confirmed later to be 27-year-old Liu Yubao. Ye Ting was driving at a speed of over 90 miles per hour, close to 145 kilometers per hour, on Highway 108 and lost control at the intersection merging onto Highway 520. The car collided with the concrete barrier at high speed, broke through the barrier, flipped several times in the air, flew over a retention pond, and then hit the side of the bridge, ultimately landing upside down in the greenbelt next to Highway 520. When the police and firefighters arrived at the scene, they saw that the vehicle was severely damaged, and the driver's side door was the only way to rescue the two occupants. They first rescued the driver, Ye Ting, and then had to cut the safety belt to drag Liu Yubao from the passenger seat. Medical personnel later confirmed that Liu Yubao had tragically died on the scene. While attending to Ye Ting's injuries, a firefighter named Andrew mentioned that he smelled a strong odor of alcohol in her breath, which was also confirmed by paramedic Sawaya. Subsequently, Ye Ting was transported to Harborview Medical Center by an ambulance, and the police immediately applied for a search warrant to obtain a report on Ye Ting's blood alcohol concentration. Bellevue City's traffic cameras recorded the moment of the accident involving Ye Ting's vehicle, as well as the vehicle's condition at the intersection of Highway 112 and 24th Street before entering the accident section. Officer Nygren of the Washington Police Department wrote that when Ye Ting was on Highway 112 and 24th Street, her speed was approximately 92 miles per hour. On Highway 108, her speed was approximately 94 miles per hour. After losing control of the car, it turned sideways, and the driver's side faced forward. The car collided with the concrete barrier at a speed of at least 91 miles per hour before flipping. This left clear tire marks at the scene, initially in the southbound lane, even though Ye Ting was driving northbound at the time. Officer Nygren also stated that the road was dry at the time of the accident, and Ye Ting's car did not collide with any objects before hitting the barrier, essentially ruling out weather conditions or road conditions as factors contributing to the accident. We also checked that both Highway 112 and Highway 108 had speed limits of 30 miles per hour. In other words, at the time of the accident, Ye Ting was driving at over 3 times the local speed limit, given the high speed at which she crashed into the wall. It can only be described as fortunate that the driver, Ye Ting, did not suffer fatal injuries. Some internet users also discussed the safety of the Porsche, but that is not within the scope of our discussion today. The conclusion reached in this accident determination report is as follows. There is sufficient evidence to suggest that Ye Ting is suspected of violating the motor vehicle homicide statute under RCW 42.61.524. This RCW 4261.524 refers to a section of Washington State Revised Code. According to this statute, motor vehicle homicide is categorized into 3 situations. 1. Causing the death of another person by negligent driving, which means when a person, while operating a motor vehicle, causes the death of another person due to negligence, violation of traffic rules, or other legal violations. 2. Causing the death of another person while driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. 3. Reckless driving or disregarding the safety of others. Observing these 3 scenarios, any one of them seems to describe Ye Ting's behavior. Based on the police's accident determination report, the Seattle Prosecutor's Office applied for the arrest of Ye Ting on the charge of motor vehicle homicide in the Washington State Superior Court. In the case summary, the prosecutor highlighted several points. First, due to the defendant's injuries, the police were unable to question her at the scene. However, a search warrant for a blood alcohol concentration test of the defendant was approved 3 hours after the accident, and forensic experts obtained a blood sample, with the results awaiting testing by the toxicology office. Second, Mr. Liu was seriously injured and pronounced dead at the scene, and the defendant refused to provide any information about Mr. Liu to the police. Investigators had to inform Mr. Liu's immediate family about his death through his workplace in Seattle. Third, the defendant obtained her driver's license on February 12, 2021, and had no prior history of traffic or criminal offenses before this accident. The car she was driving was a 2020 Porsche 911, valued between $97,000 and $133,000. Fourth, both the defendant and Mar Liu were Chinese citizens living in Seattle for work purposes, and it was unclear how long the defendant intended to stay in Seattle. She resided in a single-bedroom apartment. Washington State does not have an extradition treaty with China, and the defendant had no ties to the local community. Considering the above points, the prosecutor requested bail for Ye Ting to be set at $2 million, along with several conditions, including surrendering her passport, not driving, and not leaving the state of Washington without court permission. If she could afford bail, she would be placed under house arrest with an electronic ankle monitor and subjected to alcohol monitoring. The prosecutor's request was approved by the Superior Court on October 9th, and an arrest warrant was issued, setting bail at $2 million. If she did not post bail, she would be detained pending trial. However, when the Washington police arrived at the hospital where Ye Ting was located with this arrest warrant, they discovered that Ye Ting had already been discharged, and her whereabouts were unknown. Shortly thereafter, rumors began circulating on social media that the female programmer from Seattle had driven under the influence, causing her boyfriend's death, and had quietly fled back to China, sparking significant attention. It turns out that Ye Ting was also a minor internet celebrity. With her attractive appearance, a background as a graduate from a prestigious university, and a job as a data engineer at Apple, she had accumulated thousands of followers on various social platforms. Her actions of driving under the influence, causing her boyfriend's death, and subsequently escaping contradicted her online image and professional identity. Furthermore, some people claiming to be friends of the deceased male began revealing that Ye Ting was extremely selfish. She not only refused to provide any information about the male victim to the police, but also concealed his death from his family and friends. This led to the victim's parents and friends learning about his death 2 weeks later. What made netizens even more upset was that they discovered Ye Ting continued to update her social media accounts after the incident, portraying a peaceful and enjoyable life while secretly exchanging US dollars for Chinese yuan in WeChat groups, presumably in preparation for returning to China. After successfully fleeing back to China, she deleted all her social media pages in an attempt to disappear and avoid responsibility. These behaviors fueled public anger to its peak. However, just at that moment, a large number of Indian YouTubers suddenly appeared on the platform, claiming that Ye Ting had been unsuccessful in the hospital rescue and had become the second fatality in the car accident. This unexpected turn of events left people confused and puzzled. So, who is telling the truth, and who is spreading falsehoods? Did Ye Ting really escape back to China, or did she succumb to her injuries in the hospital? To make sense of the timeline, the accident occurred on September 30th, and the arrest warrant was issued on October 9th. If Ye Ting did indeed escape, it would mean that she planned her escape, purchased a ticket, and settled her affairs in the United States within a mere 8 days after the accident. Is this a plausible possibility? In fact, the arrest warrant for Ye Ting was only entered into the system on October 9th, so technically, she could have left the United States without encountering border restrictions. However, considering Ye Ting's physical condition, was she even allowed to leave the United States? This is also a question we have, especially after watching the video recording of Nigrin detective questioning Ye Ting on October 2nd at the hospital. It becomes increasingly difficult to believe that she actually escaped back to China when looking at the video, as her condition does not appear to be that of someone who can get up and run away. On that day, Nigrin and other detectives arrived at Harborview Medical Center to conduct the initial questioning of Ye Ting. In accordance with the protection of the individual's privacy, we have made some edits to the video. However, you can see that Ye Ting's injuries were not light. Her right arm was entirely bandaged from the armpit to the wrist. She wore a neck brace and had a breathing tube inserted into her nose. Her voice was weak and intermittent, but the only thing that could be confirmed was that she was very conscious. Here is the conversation between Ye Ting and Detective Nigrin. First, Detective Nigrin introduced himself and the purpose of his visit. At this point, Ye Ting requested that a male friend come to her bedside to provide support. This male friend was originally by Ye Ting's side, but stepped out of the camera frame when the police arrived. At Ye Ting's request, the police allowed her male friend to remain by her bedside. The nature of their relationship is not the focus of this discussion, but it is evident that Ye Ting was very nervous about the police questioning that was about to begin. Detective Nigrin then explained that the video footage took place on October 2nd at 2:02 p.m. Detective Nigrin then proceeded to recite the Miranda warning to Ye Ting.
So today is October 2nd, 2023, and it's about 2:02 p.m. This is Detective Nigrin with the City of Bellevue Police Department. This interview is regarding case number 2023-53397. I am interviewing Ting Lee. Ting, can you spell your name for me, please?
My name is Ting Ye.
Are you able to spell that for me?
Tingye.
Okay.
After informing Ye Ting of her rights, Detective Nygren asked if she would be willing to voluntarily answer some questions. Ye Ting immediately inquired, "Can I have a lawyer represent me during this interview today?" The subsequent conversation mainly revolved around how to involve an attorney. The police informed Ye Ting that she could either find a lawyer on the internet to represent her or request a public defender for her defense. This questioning session concluded at approximately 2:10 p.m. on the same day. Throughout the entire interaction, the police did not manage to ask her any questions related to the car accident, as Ye Ting requested that her lawyer answer all questions on her behalf after the Miranda warning was read. From this, it is evident that Ye Ting was very conscious at the time, although her injuries did not appear to be of the nature that would allow for a quick discharge from the hospital. Therefore, whether Ye Ting had indeed absconded to China remained a question, as we had only seen information from Chinese and Indian internet users, without any official statement from the police. However, on October 27th, all these questions were finally answered. The Bellevue police confirmed that Ye Ting had indeed fled back to China, and they had initiated an international search. Seth Tyler, the public information officer for the state of Washington, was interviewed by local television station Como News. Seth clarified some details. First, the car accident occurred around 3:45 a.m., and it was only 45 minutes later that a passerby discovered the accident scene and reported it to the police. Secondly, based on the police's calculation of the skid marks at the scene, the vehicle was traveling at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour before the accident, equivalent to approximately 160 kilometers per hour. Most importantly, someone had driven Ye Ting from Seattle to Vancouver, Canada, and from there, Ye Ting took a flight back to China. As for the identity of this individual, the police were still investigating, but it was certain that whoever it was would face serious legal consequences. Previously, there were questions about why the police issued the arrest warrant so late, why there was no one guarding the hospital, and how a patient managed to escape. Seth addressed these questions in the interview. Firstly, the issuance of an arrest warrant required a specific process and was not solely at the discretion of the police. As mentioned earlier, it involved the police providing an accident determination, then the prosecutor applying to the court based on this determination, and finally, the court agreeing with the prosecutor's recommendation to issue the arrest warrant. This process had to be followed step by step. Secondly, Ye Ting had consistently refused to cooperate with investigators' inquiries and insisted on having her lawyer present to answer all questions. Therefore, the police could only collect enough information unilaterally to issue the accident determination. When the determination was finally completed and the court issued the arrest warrant, they discovered that Ye Ting had already been discharged from the hospital, and at that time, the hospital had not notified the police, as there was no arrest warrant for Ye Ting at that point. So, why didn't the police assign someone to guard Ye Ting? That was because they simply did not anticipate that she would be able to escape given the severity of her injuries. In Seth's own words, "Due to Ye Ting's injuries, we simply did not believe she would be discharged in a short amount of time, so at that time we did not think it was necessary to assign an officer to guard her." The police's explanation does make sense, as it was unexpected that a young woman who had just experienced a severe car accident, one moment connected to a respirator with bandages and a neck brace, could suddenly pack her bags, cross the U.S.-Canada border by car, and then take a flight back to China within hours. It seems that concepts like post-traumatic stress or the lingering effects of the accident were not a concern for Ye Ting. Whether Ye Ting's escape has left a psychological impact on the Washington police, or whether they will be more cautious in the future when dealing with Chinese suspects, regardless of the severity of their injuries, remains to be seen. Since Ye Ting was willing to endure such severe injuries to escape back to China, it indicates that she was well aware of the potential legal consequences she faced in the United States, and that the same charges in China might result in much lighter penalties. According to our investigation, in the state of Washington, vehicular homicide is classified as a Class A felony, and individuals with no prior criminal record may face standard sentences of 6.5 to 8.5 years of imprisonment, in addition to a fine of $50,000. In China, causing death by drunk driving resulting in a traffic accident is typically charged as the crime of traffic negligence and may result in a prison sentence of less than 3 years. Some people have speculated that Ye Ting must have received guidance from someone knowledgeable in the legal field to make such a quick decision to escape back to China. There have even been rumors that Ye Ting's father is a Chinese prosecutor. Regarding these claims, we have no way to verify their authenticity. In reality, information about sentencing standards for vehicular homicide in Washington state can be found online. This information is often provided in the form of promotional content by criminal lawyers in Washington state. In these articles, lawyers typically advise individuals. Usually, the government does not immediately file this charge after the incident. The police and prosecutor conduct an investigation and wait for all relevant evidence and toxicology reports. In some jurisdictions, charges of vehicular homicide may take several months to be filed in court. Therefore, it is advisable for everyone to use this time wisely. Essentially, what the lawyers mean is that they recommend the defendant to promptly hire them as legal representatives during this time period. However, it's unclear whether this statement had an influence on Ye Ting while she was searching for a legal representative online. In any case, the end result was that she successfully exploited this time gap to escape back to China. In addition to who brought Ye Ting to Canada, there's also curiosity about who Ye Ting's father is. Many netizens are more concerned about whether Ye Ting will face consequences for her actions upon returning to China. Regarding this matter, Public Information Officer Seth stated, "We want to make it clear to Ms. Ye Ting that she is wanted for vehicular homicide, and we need her to come back and talk to us so that the victims' families can move on with their lives." While there is no extradition agreement between China and the United States, such agreements exist with other countries. She should be aware that if she attempts to go to any of those countries, she will be immediately arrested. Does this mean that the only punishment for Ye Ting is that she cannot travel to countries with extradition agreements with the United States for the rest of her life? Regarding this incident, netizens have several opinions. Is Ye Ting's return to China considered fleeing if she returned before the U.S. authorities issued an arrest warrant? If I didn't know you were going to arrest me and there was no prior prohibition on leaving the country, can't I return to my home country for medical treatment? There is no extradition agreement between China and the United States, and the focus of judicial cooperation between the two countries is typically on information exchange and joint investigations for cases involving corruption, fraud, etc. The United States may not have a strong interest in expending resources to pursue Ye Ting. Ye Ting did not flee the scene of the accident, and the traffic accident did not occur in China. Therefore, Ye Ting may not be subject to legal sanctions in China. Given these various perspectives, will Ye Ting truly escape legal consequences upon returning to China? We hope that legal professionals, such as lawyers who watch our video, can provide clarification on this matter. Thank you for watching M2 Story.